I'm going to edit this spoiler cast on the plane because Cassian said I had to.
A modern podcast where Chris and Mike talk about TV, movies, superheroes, and everything in between. It's time for Superhero Slate.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name's Mike Royer.
And this is a super special spoiler cast for Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
A Star Wars story. And man, are we getting this in at like the smallest window we have this weekend.
Yes.
So it's a Star Wars movie, which now means it's coming out right around the holidays. And obviously, we both have lots of things we need to do. This is going to be the last week before we take our week break.
Yes.
And then we'll come back towards the end of the year. So you're going out of town. We usually record on Sunday.
Yes.
So you're going out of town. We're doing this on a Saturday. And we're getting this in like right before you leave. Like you told me, to my surprise, when we started this recording, that you are leaving like the second we're done recording the spoiler cast. So
Yep.
you're a very busy man.
I'm very, yes, and very dedicated. I would have done the regular show this morning if Mike could have gotten up earlier, I think. But we did talk last week. We will have a guest for tomorrow's episode. That's fine. Everything's business as usual, but this is the last show for me for this year. And I think
not this year.
Just before the end of the year wrap up. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And I think this is a very, very important thing to talk about is Star Wars. I mean, we're big Star Wars fans.
Yeah, I think it's obvious that we were trying to move heaven and earth to make sure that you could do the spoiler cast.
Exactly. And we're big Star Wars fans. I mean, we worked on a Star Wars project the better part of a year a couple years ago. Watching all the movies, researching all the history of Star Wars. And actually, Phantom Menace is on TNT whenever I came up here to start recording this. So Star Wars is everywhere right now. December is Star Wars month. Forget Christmas. It's Star Wars month, man. That's what we're going to have to start doing.
That is right. So usually when we get into the spoiler cast, we usually talk about how our theater going experience was, so we can kind of set up and let everybody know how it went. So how did it go for you, man?
Pretty good. IMAX reserve seating. We got in. Actually, there were people to the left of me, but like 5 seats to the right, there was no one in. So,
oh wow.
I guess people just didn't want to sit in that part of the theater, which wasn't bad at all. And then we got IMAX posters as well. They handed those out to us.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I saw some of those images that you sent me. Those posters look pretty sweet.
Yeah. So we got that. It was a great experience. I mean, no one was on their phone. It was very, very straightforward. I mean, good time actually. What about you, Mike? Any eventful happenings?
No, I had a very well-behaved theater, which was great. It was a packed house, as it usually was. I surprisingly somehow got very good seats, even though I bought these tickets like as soon as I possibly could. So people wanted to see this movie, and they were going to see this movie. I made the mistake of like going into this movie without any sort of like dinner in me. So I fed myself like with like popcorn and soda, which meant I had to like find that crucial bathroom break in the middle of the movie.
What a shame.
So I think I found a good spot. I didn't really miss anything, but I got my ever vigilant wife there to scan the screen while I'm gone to let me know what I missed. So I pretty much didn't miss anything, and I ran. You know, when I go to the bathroom during a really good movie like this, like I run to the bathroom. I don't care who sees me out in the hallway and think, why is that dude running? Like, nope, just got to use the bathroom. Got to get back to this movie. So
yeah.
It was a good screening. It was a good time, and it was a good audience. There was some applause. There was some cheering. You could audibly hear the people in the theater when like a really deep cut Easter egg would like pop up on screen. You could hear like maybe a couple people down go like, oh. So that was kind of cool, and it was a good time.
Yeah. Well, this is a good time for me to push the app I use. It's called Run P, where it actually has the bathroom times for movies, like the best times and what you miss in the app, and
cool.
it'll buzz your pocket when it's a good time to go to the bathroom. Like you can set like the movie starts and it'll buzz your phone for you.
Yeah, and speaking of that, once you get into the third act of the movie, when they land on that beach, I hope you have gone to the bathroom before that, because it's nonstop until the last second of the movie. So I think on that note, Chris, I want to know what you thought about this movie, because we go radio silence after we see these movies on Thursday until we get a chance to talk about it. So
yeah, I think this is it's a good movie, but it is not a great Star Wars movie. Is how I've determined to put this in there. Like, I enjoyed myself. I had a great time, but there are some questionable choices in here that make me kind of maybe put it in the middle of the Star Wars movies again. So that's kind of where I'm landing here. Is it's a good movie, but not a great Star Wars movie. Mike, what about yourself?
Well, I think it's weird. I think this was a very effective Star Wars movie, and I think it's such a good Star Wars setting, and it's placed so well into the franchise. I think the only downfall that this movie might have is if you're not a really big Star Wars fan, and if you don't like pay attention to the storylines, the plots throughout all of the expanded universe, and you're checking for these Easter eggs and you're looking for these little winks and nods, I don't think it's as effective as a movie. I think it's still a really great film. I had a really, really good time. That the last moments of the film are just like exhilarating, and I love them. The first part of the film is a little slow, but I just think there's so much I guess what you'd call fan service throughout the movie that I just I loved all of that so much. But I think if you're just not really bought into the Star Wars universe, if you're just a very really casual watcher, or maybe you just like, oh, there's a new Star Wars movie out, people really like these movies, I'm going to go see it, I don't know if you'll necessarily grab onto this one as much as you would the other one.
See, I think I'm going to go the other way. I think this movie is too much fan service and not enough of an actual a good movie. I think there's a lot of things that are laid out, and the people who see it get it, but I don't know if the movie on a whole still works, because like you mentioned, the first act, it kind of struggles to find its footing a little bit. And I don't know, how did you feel about the lack of the introduction scroll? I think that was very jarring. What they ended up doing was probably more jarring than I thought it would be.
I mean, I kind of liked it. I think this is a really interesting addition to the Star Wars universe, because this is the first time on the big screen we've had something that hasn't fit the mold of the Star Wars. So, you know, on TV you got all these different ways they've told stories in the Star Wars universe. So I think they just had to do a really good job to remind people that this is a Star Wars story. It's a standalone movie. Since this is definitely a spoiler cast, we can go ahead and talk about it. I really enjoyed how at the end of the movie they killed all of the Rogue One pilots. I think that was a good decision. I mean, it made the movie pretty dark, and I think that decision was made after the fact. I think Disney came in and almost approved it. I think they almost filmed like a more lighthearted ending to the movie, as you can tell, because in the trailers there's unused footage. And,
almost all the trailer footage is not in this movie, I feel.
Yeah. So there's a scene in the trailer where Jen is running on the beach, and she has that hard drive of the plans in her hands, and she's running with Cassian, and so it makes me think that they're running to a ship and they're going to do a harrowing escape and stay alive. But I almost think like two endings were planned, and that was the first one filmed, and then maybe during the reshoots, I don't know if Disney approved the darker ending, but the fact is we did get a darker ending, and I really appreciate it. I don't know who made that decision. I don't know if Disney was just like, hey, you know, this is like these are family movies, but we're going to go ahead and let you go that way. I thought that was great. You know, I guess where this movie really fell in love for me is definitely that last act of the movie, and I think that's kind of all of the payoff that I needed. But when you were talking about how there's too much fan service, I think it's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't thing. Like, I think maybe we'll get a little bit more variation when it comes to the other Star Wars story movies, but this one is just so... It's just so affected by all of the other movies we've already had. They almost don't have a choice. Like, you know, this movie literally leads up to like seconds before A New Hope. So you have to set up all the way to that moment. And then it's after Revenge of the Sith. So you got to make sure some of those events, you know, work in there. So it's kind of like they're between like a rock and a hard place to put a movie. But I thought the movie that they made was very effective for what they had to do.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the last act is great. I think a lot of the world building was much better. I like to see them go to different planets throughout and learn more. But I don't believe I'm not on board with the rock and the hard place thing, because there's nothing here set in stone. We don't know how they got the plans. We don't know what happened in between there. So they had all this stuff to do, and I think they kind of lost their way, because I think what we saw a lot of, we're going to talk about this in one of the Easter eggs, is the Kyber crystals was something they set up kind of at the beginning of the movie. Jyn has one around her neck. Kyber crystals power lightsabers. I don't know. They didn't really explain that too much.
Oh, well, not too much, but yeah, they did.
They mention it, but like every lightsaber is powered by a Kyber crystal. The Sith, the reason that the Sith ones are red is because they're dark side manipulating the crystals, and they're technically bleeding. That's why they're red, which is a fun fact from the extended universe now. But
good to know.
After they mentioned, like, you know, the Kyber crystals, like, I thought there was going to be something more with them later in the third act, but it's kind of just like that first, I guess, third to maybe half is what was there. And like you said, this movie has gone through reshoots and some maybe some redirections, because none of the trailer footage was used. And I was actually one scene from the trailers I want to see was Jyn facing down the TIE fighter on the tower. And
yeah, I definitely remember that moment.
I really wanted to see that. But I just think I had fun, but this isn't a movie I need to go see again. Again, I will probably add it to the Star Wars collection. It's worthy of its Star Wars title, and I think this is the first time it's felt like there's actually been a war in the Star Wars movies. Like
yes, that's a really good point. This was the first time I've ever felt like the rebels were really fighting for a cause. You know, and I think you got a little bit of that from Cassian when he was on the ship after, you know, Jen's father died. He was saying something along the lines of, you know, you're not the only one that's lost people. You know, we've just decided to do something about it. You know, it felt like really desperate times. I think somewhere I saw someone mention that this was like, if you like World War II movies, you're going to love the Star Wars movie. And it did feel like that. So, and I think that goes along with the darker tone. It's almost as if they were building up to this like summer blockbuster action scene at the end, but the first half of this movie felt a little bit more grounded and rugged, like Saving Private Ryan. So maybe those two tones didn't mesh super well, but I still like them as they were. I know a lot of people out there were saying that it was a little slow to start, and I think maybe they could have fixed that a little bit and helped. Like, I thought it would have been cool if maybe when Jyn was rescued from that trailer truck on whatever planet she was on, maybe if that could have been a little bit more drawn out, maybe it would have been more like an escape than just, blow the back of the door off and she's rescued. That may have been a way to fill out the first half of the movie. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like overall, maybe I enjoyed this movie a little bit more than you did. But it seems like we're still both on board with the idea of standalone Star Wars movies.
Yeah, I definitely think this is a good first attempt, but there's a lot to be, I think, learned from here going forward. There's a fun fact: only one of the actors has a renewal clause in their contract to show up again.
Oh wow, who is that?
Actually, it's Jyn Erso, the main actress there. I forget her name off the top of my head.
Felicity Jones.
Felicity Jones, there we go. She has a renewal, like she can show up again, like clause in her story or in her contract. So they could do, I guess, a prequel to the prequel to tell more about Jyn growing up with Forrest Whitaker's character.
I mean, honestly, I hope not, because that's one thing that I really enjoyed about going into this movie. It was very standalone.
No, like you're exactly right. I would not want them to pick up and go back again, because I think the standalone aspect works really great. Like you don't need to really watch the prequels, I think, to enjoy this movie.
And you don't really need to invest as much of yourself when you're watching the movie too. You know, you're not hanging on a thread, you know, wondering, oh, what's going to happen to these characters in the next movie, or how are they going to draw this out into a franchise. It's kind of like a nice breath of fresh air to go into a movie and go, oh, I'm just going to get this one story. And I really enjoyed that, and I thought that was a good idea to expand the Star Wars universe without just going overboard. You know, they can add these Star Wars story movies, and they can just do these one-offs. So they don't have to worry about, like you said, a bunch of like contract extensions from all these actors and shuffling them around and wondering where they're going to be. Because I imagine she only had that contract extension to maybe another movie because there was an ending where she lived at one point in time, or maybe it was more ambiguous. But no, they're definitely all dead. And it was actually kind of a funny realization in my head because, you know, I'm just watching and enjoying the movie, and then when K2SO, you know, basically dies in the movie or gets shut down or deactivated. I don't know what you call it when a droid dies.
Oh, he straight up got blown up. So yeah.
When that happened, you know, kind of a death tone started to set in at the end of the movie, and I started thinking to myself, I was like, oh wow, they're not afraid to kill like one of the more likable characters in the film. And then I thought to myself, I was like, wait a minute, I think I remember in A New Hope someone drops a line like, a lot of good men died for these plans.
You're thinking many Bothans died to bring us these plans.
Yeah, I like whatever the line was, and I was like, oh, I think all of these people are supposed to die. And then once they started to get picked off one by one, and I thought their death scenes were very well played out. So I didn't think anything felt like no one really felt too shortchanged, well, which I thought was good. They all felt like they were dying for a cause, which felt awesome. So, but when they all just went, and I was like, wow, they did it. And then after Jen and Cassian die on the beach, and I was like, oh wow, that's the end of the movie. Nope, it keeps going. And oh man, those last 2 minutes were I think honestly, if you just couldn't get on board with if anybody out there couldn't get on board with the new characters, you know, really didn't like the storyline so much, I think the price of admission to this movie is worth it for those last 2 minutes, because once you leave the theater, all you want to do is go home and watch A New Hope, or you would just hope the projectionist up there just rolls Star Wars A New Hope right after
the end credit scene is A New Hope. Like, you stay through the credits, and then it just starts rolling. The end credit scene is all of A New Hope, and you're like, well, they took it to a new level.
Yes. Yeah, what did you think about that end scene? Because I want to take a minute and I want to talk about those last couple minutes.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, again, one of the few times we get to see Darth Vader redeem himself. Since the prequel trilogy, Darth Vader's kind of been on the ropes. He's been like, you know, like we were always afraid of him growing up, but then they kind of ruined him, like by giving him the Anakin Skywalker and the Hayden Christensen portrayals, right? And I think in the past 5 to 10 years, it's been an uphill battle. But I think Darth Vader has finally become formidable and scary, and someone who the universe as a whole should have been afraid of at the time of the original Star Wars movies. And I think, to me, the thing that bothers me the most is learning that Princess Leia is aboard the attack ship the whole time. She doesn't seem like someone who would be in the middle of this big battle. But I mean, of all the CGI'd old actors in this movie, Princess Leia was the best one of the two. So.
Yeah, and it was just a kind of a really shocking roller coaster going through those last couple minutes, because I never really knew when the movie was exactly going to stop. So this kind of a scene there kind of picks up where Vader gets into his ship and goes to board that rebel cruiser. And there's kind of like this shot where the ships are flying towards it, and I was like, oh man, that's the last shot. They're going to that ship. They're about to throw those credits up on screen, and like, no, it keeps going there while they're in the ship. And I was like, holy crap, the Vader is just destroying people. But even before he started destroying people, like, you see it at the end of the dark hallway, and then you hear Vader's voice and you hear him turn the lightsaber on. The lightsaber turns on. I was like, oh, that's an awesome image. I bet the credits are about to roll. Nope, he keeps going. He just murders all of these people, and it's really brutal. Like, we've never really gotten to see real physical Vader like that, because when Vader's in that costume and he's in the classic trilogy, you know, it's just a big bulky suit, and then, you know, and he's moving very slowly. There's not a lot of athleticism to him. So just watching him just kind of be full-fledged Vader, like you're like, oh wow, what he's doing now is what gives him the image that all of these people are scared of him in the galaxy. Like, this is why they're terrified of Vader, because he can just mow down an entire hallway of people. It was so satisfying to see that. And then that lightsaber scene through the door, and then he hands off that hologram or message at the last second. Ooh. Oh, it was so good, and it was I was legitimately scared. So it really affected me, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that actually redeemed it, because I have one complaint about Darth Vader in this movie, and the fact is he made a choking pun halfway through the movie.
Oh yeah.
I was like, they didn't just make Darth Vader do that, did they? Like, this is not what we're gonna get. So I think the ending redeemed that choking on your aspirations pun.
So that first Vader scene, I have mixed feelings about it. So I loved how they kind of added to the cinematic lore of Vader, kind of showing quote unquote where he lives, and you know, when he's not in the suit and not in that egg thing, you know, he's in some sort of like,
it's a Bacta tank that Luke was in the
he's in
there.
Yeah, exactly. He's in a tube, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. That, you know, that kind of reminds us that, yeah, he's been rebuilt as like basically half robot, you know, and he's got the force power, but he still is like basically constantly like dying almost.
Yeah.
So I love that they added that to it. And but also I think at the same time it's really, really weird for us to see Vader doing something and saying something, because this is all new to us. Like, I feel like there's like diehard fans out there that have every line Vader's ever said memorized, and they probably thought this was the only time we were ever going to hear James Earl Jones say anything coming out of that Vader helmet was in that original trilogy. So now we're bringing him back to reprise his role as Vader, and I'm almost thinking it almost didn't matter what he said. It was going to seem weird and out of place, because it's such a weird, odd moment for us to be getting new Darth Vader, be getting new James Earl Jones with new lines. But yeah, maybe that line wasn't crafted the best, but I actually kind of had like a cheesy smile when he said it. I was like, oh, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can totally see where you're saying it from. I think that's one of the bigger points I can make about this movie. I can totally understand why people would have problems with certain areas of this movie, it just totally makes sense. Like, this movie is just not going to appeal to everyone, and I think it makes sense when you compare this to something like Force Awakens. I think Force Awakens is like a really fun adventure sci-fi romp. You know, you have these two very likable characters. You have like the awesome kind of Star Wars comedy punch up. You know, you have like an adorable robot like BB-8. And it's just a really fun story. You have lightsabers, you know, you have people like Han Solo returning, and it was just a great fun time. And then when you come to a movie like this, it's so much darker. Even your comic relief robot is very, very snarky, and he's kind of a jackass. But I think it's a good addition when you think of adding droids to the universe. But yeah, like, it's just, you're getting two totally different vibes for your Star Wars December movie.
Yeah, totally. And something, you know, we keep mentioning, you know, characters that we enjoy. I think K2SO is one of the highlight of the droids that, you know, that we've added. Alan Tudyk played him awesomely. I think very, very sassy, if you will, which was great. I liked Chirrut Imwe, the blind Jedi. Temple.
Donnie Yen. Yeah, that dude was awesome. He's like a legit like martial arts master. So he definitely convinced me.
He created a new kind of a fighting style for this movie as well, because he didn't want to use, like, you know, existing like earthly fighting style. So he created kind of something new, a mix of stuff to make it feel Star Warsy and stuff like that.
And talk about adding to the cinematic lore. I kind of like how his character showed that, like, you know, if you really do believe in the Force enough, you don't have to be a Jedi. If you kind of just have faith in it, like the Force will kind of protect you in times of need. And I thought that was really cool, because that's one thing, obviously, that everyone agrees the prequels did wrong. They made the Force seem very matter-of-fact and scientific as, like, midichlorians. But, like, I for one, like, it has, like, the Force is almost like this flowing thing through the galaxy that kind of equalizes good and bad. You know, it's almost kind of like karma, if you will, but karma will, like, that could actually affect the real world. So I like how like Donnie Yen's character kind of showed that like, oh, you know, the Force is still here. We still have the Force in the movie, but. That also reminds me that I was kind of hoping we'd see some more of that Jedi Temple. I've said this on the podcast many times before. Like, I want to see a fucking Jedi Temple on the big screen, really bad. You know, I want them to go in there. I want to like see those crystals, and you know, it was cool seeing that giant Jedi statue like falling over on Jeddah, like just like covered in dust, knowing that the Empire's been here and they fucked some shit up. But I'm hoping we get a legit Jedi temple, maybe possibly in an Obi-Wan
Well,
movie.
I think 8 will give us the temple because he has to train what's her face, the other female lead character.
Rey?
Yeah, Rey. Sorry, there's Rey, Jin. They're all single, syllable.
Jin, Finn, Rey. Yeah, I get you.
So I think we'll see something there. But I think Jeddah was fun. I think we got to see quickly an Easter egg with the characters Ponda Baba and Dr. Cornelius Evazan, who Russell Luke up in A New Hope at the bar.
Oh yeah, that was a great Easter egg.
Yeah,
man, so many Easter eggs in this movie. We had Red Leader and Gold Leader later in the movie. Those were great.
What's great about that? You actually bring up my next Easter egg. That is original Star Wars A New Hope footage they did not use.
Oh wow! I heard some people maybe thought that was happening, but that's cool to see it. It was confirmed.
When I was watching it, I'm like, man, this looks like actual like original. Like you could see the film grain on a couple of like the characters in their cockpits. So the stuff around them was green screened and added in, but like their characters were like, I think Gold Leader was and some other stuff. So that's actually original unused footage, which I thought was a great addition to the movie.
Yeah, that's so amazing. I love that. We had I don't know if we technically saw Admiral Akbar anywhere, but we did get another creature.
I think they're Mon Calamari.
Yeah, we had a major Mon Calamari planning the attack on that planet there at the end. That was cool. There's just so many. I'm trying to think as they pop into my head.
Now, is this an Easter egg or not? So my friend Brian Smith of Comic UI and we both agree on this, that the planet reminds us of the planet from Spaceballs because it's got the shield around it holding the oxygen in.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I was like, okay, maybe that's not so much of an original idea anymore.
Yeah, and all they could have done is just put in the passcode, which is obviously 12345, and just got right in. So I thought that was kind of cool. Like, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but that's what it looked like. Even we also had I don't remember the character's name, but he was in Revenge of the Sith. He was the one that was taking care of baby Luke and baby Leia. Oh, you're talking to Bail Organa.
Yes.
Yeah, so the same actor who actually was
Jimmy Smits.
Jimmy Smits, the same actor from that movie came back and portrayed him. Then I guess my question is, how did you feel about Tarkin? This is something people are going to talk about for months, and I think he was overused, which made the CGI over the actor's face stand out more. But if they kept him like kind of like when we first see him, he's reflecting in the glass kind of thing, and just like kind of kept him at a distance, I think he would have been more powerful. What do you think?
I mean, honestly, to be honest, I didn't even realize like that it wasn't real. Like I was trying to remember. So the last time I watched A New Hope was about a year ago, and obviously he's in that movie, and I was just trying really hard to remember how old was he in that movie. There's no way he's still alive.
He died in 94, I believe.
Yeah, so, like, honestly, like, this makes me sound really stupid because I thought that there maybe is a chance he's still alive and maybe they just de-aged his face. Obviously, it did not happen because I'm looking at images from him right now from A New Hope, and he was super old. There's no way he was still alive. Yeah. So I feel dumb for thinking he was, but I am super impressed now that was all CG. I mean, obviously, it was probably a real person, and they CG'd his face onto there.
Yes,
but wow, I thought it was amazing. Like it's almost past Uncanny Valley because I was intently looking at his face, not trying to figure out if he was CG, but trying to figure out like, oh, did they just bring him back into the movie and just like, oh, we'll just deal with it if he looks a little bit older. I don't think people will care.
So
I mean, wow, the technology to where we're at now with de-aging actors is just amazing, and bringing them back to life. I'm literally shocked right now that guy is not alive anymore.
So they did it twice. They did it once with Leia at the end of the movie, but she only said one word. But I think that the problem with me and this Tarkin is the CG version was too smooth compared to as you see like how contrasty and like grainy his face is in A New Hope. And I think that's what bothered me a little bit. I hope this doesn't become a trend of bringing back dead actors just because they can and not add prosthetics or something like that. But
as long as it makes money, man, Hollywood's going to bring back whoever they want.
Disney, Marvel, Star Wars are all doing that lately. So it tends to be the trend. But that was the biggest question I've had a lot of people say. I mean, I don't hate this movie. I think it was a good time. But I'm not as in love with it as, again, The Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope in and of itself.
Yeah. I think when a Star Wars movie comes out and you start to see chinks in the armor, it's really, you really want to dive towards them because you're just like, the Star Wars fans were very protective. Yeah. When the prequels came out, it really shit on everything. The Force Awakens came out, we were all extremely happy, but obviously when you watch the Force Awakens again, you start to realize, well, this is kind of just a retread on A New Hope. But then you get into the whole debate on like, oh, did they do it on purpose just to reinvigorate the franchise and introduce it to new people? Who knows? But like, I think it's a solid addition. I don't think there's no criminal sins in this movie. I don't think.
Exactly. And it's better than the prequel movies.
By far.
I think this and kind of maybe episode 3 kind of tie up because the end scene in like the final act in episode 3, those battles is kind of it feels as epic as this battle as third act does, But I still hold it a little above it. Before we wrap this up, where would you rank this in terms of your Star Wars movies, Mike? Because I know people are going to ask us.
Oh, well, I think a lot of people are going to rank it the same, above the prequels, below the original trilogy, and I think some people might compete with The Force Awakens just because they're both new. But I think you put it in, I guess, 5th place, like you said at the beginning here, it falls kind of right in the middle there, not only chronologically but in the quality of the film. So it's just kind of weird. It's kind of hard to rank Star Wars movies just because they're so spaced out there. I don't think of the original trilogy necessarily as individual movies. Obviously Empire stands out, but you think of them as a whole. You think of the story all together, from beginning to end, because not a lot of people sit down and watch just one of them. You watch all 3 of them because they're awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'd put it.
Yeah, I'd say it's the middle out of 8 movies that we have now. I'd put it in the middle. What I really want to do, I really want to watch this and A New Hope back to back. So I really can't wait till it comes out and do the 2-parter there in a row and see how that works. Because I think you're right. The last couple of minutes make you get ready for A New Hope and kind of build you up for that kickoff on that one where it does that. Again, I think a couple of things I'll hold against it. I wish it would have had the intro crawl. Not having it, I think the end result was very jarring to me and made me realize I was watching a movie. Whereas the other Star Wars, those intro crawls are part of the film and part of the experience. And just kind of the first act, could use a little tinkering, but overall, like you said, it's not a bad movie. It's great. So yeah, there we go. That's where I end on that.
Yeah, I had a good time. I think just to wrap this thing up, I want to look to the future just real quick because I've been having conversations with people out there. Obviously, we know the next Star Wars story film is going to be a Han Solo movie. We don't know exactly what that's going to entail. Who knows if Boba Fett's going to show up, what's going to happen. But I kind of wanted to speculate here just real quick what we would want to see in that third unannounced.
Oh, it's an Obi-Wan while he's on Tatooine and hiding. Hands down. Get Ewan McGregor back. And show.
Is that what you want to?
Oh, that's exactly what I want. That's not what it's gonna be. That's what I want it to be. Get Ewan McGregor back. Show us what's been going on in that 20 years he was there. The comic books done by Marvel now show some of his stories, and he wasn't always just a peaceful, crazy old man. He had some adventures going on there, and obviously, I think we're gonna learn Rey as a Kenobi, and we're gonna have a movie to fill in that blank for us. So
Hey, yeah, maybe. I think it would be kind of cool. Maybe they do a story along the lines of someone in the Empire gets wind of this baby that's on Tatooine, and then he has to go on this adventure quest to maybe stop that from happening.
I'm going to stop you right there because the Star Wars Rebels TV show, the main character Ezra and Darth Maul, who's still alive, just found out Obi-Wan is on Tatooine.
Ooh.
So the second half of this next season, we might see a Maul Kenobi battle yet again.
Oh, that would be pretty exciting.
So,
I think the biggest question mark for the Star Wars story films left is kind of where does Boba Fett come in, because I think that's the second strongest rumor, or I think almost request, because people want more Boba Fett. So I wonder if maybe they're going to throw those bounty hunters into the Han Solo movie, or hey, who knows, they could throw those bounty hunters into the Obi-Wan movie.
The Boba Fett, well, he does face off against bounty hunters in the comics, so that's true, but the Boba Fett movie was the guy who directed Fantastic Four in Chronicle, Josh Trank, before he was fired. So they kind of shelved that. So it's still there. It might just come up later. But he tranked himself right out of that one. So
oh, that'd be a bad Hollywood verb to start making. Tranking yourself out of a movie.
Oh, it's already a thing. So that's we're gonna go with that. But at the end of the day, write us in your Star Wars opinions. What you guys want to see, what you thought about this movie. I've talked to superfan Jim. He's a big Star Wars guy. I think he said he felt the same about me, but if he feels different after this podcast, I want to know, Jim. Let us know.
We're. I think this is going to be more decisive, for sure. I think a lot of people are going to be on different camps. I think everyone's going to overall enjoyed it, but I think they're going to have different opinions on where things could have been fixed. But I think at the end of the day, they went with the right ending. They made the right choice. Just maybe if they would have arrived to that conclusion sooner in production, maybe everything else would have fit together just a little bit better. But overall, I'm glad we have these Star Wars.
Not everyone gets to knock it out of the park on their first try, I guess, on a standalone Star Wars movie that's not part of the main trilogy. So very good addition. We'll go with that. In the meantime, Mike, if people want to follow you, I know you're working on some Star Wars stuff. It's under the table. I'm not telling anything else. Where can they do that at?
All right, well, you can follow me at Mike Royer Design on Twitter and Instagram. You can read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com. And me and Chris, we're kind of messing around with that website, TeePublic, so you can go check out our websites. And there's probably a T-shirt out there that you can buy with some of our work on it. So I'd suggest go checking those out. Chris, if people want to know what you're doing down there in Florida, that marvelous state, what's going on down there with you?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at VALDAN, Valdan. You can also follow me on Comic UI, listen to my other podcast, Film Side Chats, and if I do anything, it'll definitely be on Twitter. So, but I gotta hit a plane, Mike. How fast can you tell everyone where to find us at? That's my question.
Ooh, as always, you can visit superheroslate.com. That's the best place to find all the avenues we host the show. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Google Play Music, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Tumblr. You can subscribe and get us right in your email inbox. You can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter, and you can buy some T-shirts over on our store at superheroslate.com/store. If you're a fan of the show, please consider leaving us a review wherever you listen to the show. That's super helpful. Helps us reach some new earlobes and get some new listeners. And if you're a super fan of the show, just share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we will be here almost literally every week except for next week because we're taking a week off because of the holidays. We'll be back at the end of the year, and always stay tuned and subscribe because we'll have our normal weekly episode, news episode, coming up right in your feed with a guest. So thanks for listening. Bye-bye. How'd I do?
You did great.
Fast?
You did great.
Good?
You did great.
Right.
You did great. And actually, just to throw in there, I'm wearing my Superhero Slate shirt from Jim through the airport today, my old one, and I have 3 new TeePublic ones arriving tomorrow. So I'm really excited to see how those, or I guess on Monday. So yep, I'm gonna hit the airport up. I'll miss you tomorrow, Mike. You guys will do great without me. I trust in you. Everyone have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. May all your Star Wars come true, and so on and so forth. So.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you. I am one with the Force, and the Force is with me, Mike. I'll see you later.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.